when we bring people in, we hire to a certain skill set, and then we're relatively sure that they're going to be competent wherever we put them. But then they want to grow. Nobody wants to stay in the same place every day. So it's kind of my job to provide them with the additional skill, the stretch learning, so that they can find new and interesting ways to serve our clientele. Teleworld Solutions is one of the best trained telecom staffs in the industry. I stake my reputation on it.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Michael Winslow. He's the Director of Learning and Development at Teleworld Solutions. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Michael, why don't you start and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been in the knowledge management field for a long time, about 30 plus years. I started off doing documentation after getting a degree in creative writing. I always told the interviewer when they say, if you have a degree in creative writing, why are you applying to write manuals? And I say, it'll pay the bills until the screenplay sells. And I just kept with it. And then eventually I was kind of inspired to move into more of an adult learning field. And I've been there for the last 20 years and working my way up the corporate ladder.
Interesting. So you mean by adult learning, you want to start and tell me a little bit more about Teleworld Solutions and kind of how you got in that way?
Oh, yeah. I started with Teleworld Solutions just shy of 3 years ago as an instructional designer, which is basically the person that develops the e-learning modules or creates the slide decks for an instructor to present to a course, and then posting those to a learning management system, otherwise known as LMS, so that the people in the organization can access all that training, and then it can track who took what so we can make sure the right people take the right training.
Interesting. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about Teleworld Solutions as a company?
Well, Teleworld Solutions is bringing 5G to America. That's one of our slogans. We operate in the telecom space. We both build and design cell towers, so you can get your cell signal when you're driving around. And we also work with networking, Wi-Fi networks for various installations, so that when you don't have to worry about finding a cable. Everywhere you go, the signal your company is sending to you so that you can get your job done is provided consistently. And so we work on, those are the two sides of our service model.
Interesting. So why, pulling in the adult learning, why is that so important, for Teleworld Solutions?
Well, because the technology is always changing. A lot of times people say, well, what niche are you working on? And to work in a niche when you're talking about technology is like getting a job being the best horse carriage manufacturer. Eventually you're going to be obsolete. So we target communication, and people have been communicating since we started being people. People are going to keep communicating. So we just deal with how to enable technology to enable that communication. So it's getting data and messages to and from the source to the audience.
Interesting. So talk to me a little bit about, in your role, the importance of training and why it's so important to have, you in your role for Teleworld Solutions.
Developing this technology is not easy. It's not just turn your computer off and on again and it'll start working. So there is a lot of higher math, which is not my specialty, but there is a lot of engineering that goes into this that we help people manage and help people learn, how do you optimize an antenna so that the most people get the best signal? How do you optimize or configure a Wi-Fi signal in a building that might have a lot of concrete that could get in the way? And working with all those contingencies and fine tuning the signal so that it gets to the most people with the most power to the signal is something that you need to learn how to do. And so we have sort of a brain trust in the organization that knows all this stuff. And then we have new people coming to the organization that need to learn this stuff. And moving that message from the people that know to the people that need to know, that's training.
And what does that training look like?
It looks like so many different things. I don't exclusively deal in training. I also deal in what I call performance support. And a lot of people consider performance support is the help file. And a help file or a manual is very useful, or it was very useful back in the day. But when you have somebody yelling about how they're losing $10,000 a minute because they don't have a signal, you don't want to thumb through 600 pages to find the message. So from the performance support angle, we try to create documentation where you can put your eyes on the information you need instantaneously. So that's indexing, that's matrixing the information. And then on the other hand, there's the training. And a lot of that is e-learning. I design e-learning around all of the ironclad information, all the black and white information. Flip this switch, tighten this bolt. It's very simple. There's no discussion. But then we also develop and mentor live trainers for that gray area that somebody's always asking a question about. So they always have that, well, what if, and we need to deal with the what ifs. So whenever you develop training, you always develop training around the 15% that's used 90 to 95% of the time, or 90. And then that last 10% is a skill that you instill during training on how to look up that unique case, because you can't train for everything. You could have a 6 months course, and then as soon as you get back to your desk, you hit that one instance that wasn't covered in the 6 month course. So we need to equip people to be able to support themselves moving forward.
Interesting. So to make sure I'm, following and understanding this correctly, your adult learning and your role, it's training for people within your company. You're not training outside of your company. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, we are working. We have a line of sight to support those people that get our products on how to use our products moving forward, or our services. So when we set up a network, right now our network is kind of standard, and it's just a little bit of mentoring. One of the technicians sit down with the power user and educates them kind of on the fly. I am hoping to work to formalize that, so we will have a consistent branded curriculum that we can hand off once we've concluded our service, and they have that ongoing support of that resource for them, so that everybody that's using our product use it to the best of their abilities.
And when you're talking about who uses the product, is there a certain kind of clientele that tend to use the product more than others?
People that use Wi-Fi or 5G. So if you send a digital signal, we can do business.
That's fantastic. That's great. So it sounds like one of the biggest challenges, that internally, that Teleworld Solutions that you're working to solve, is that communication and having access to those training documents. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, making the actual training available is not the challenge. Once it exists, we put it on our LMS and we're done. It's developing that training and make sure it's ironclad and bulletproof. So there's a really intense review cycle that we put together to make sure that everything we say is accurate and understandable to the audience.
And do you think it's that, this strong internal process that differentiates Teleworld Solutions from its competition, that, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but it sounds like a lot of people may not have these processes as, clear cut as you're working to develop with the adult learning?
Well, we don't put a person on a contract. We don't send somebody on an assignment in a project unless we're confident that they're going to deliver at 100%. So when we bring people in, we hire to a certain skill set, and then we're relatively sure that they're going to be competent wherever we put them. But then they want to grow. Nobody wants to stay in the same place every day. So it's kind of my job to provide them with the additional skill, the stretch learning, so that they can find new and interesting ways to serve our clientele.
Interesting. So, It sounds like in your role, there may be things that you hear often that may be common misconceptions. Is there anything around adult learning that you hear more often than not that you would want to kind of debunk?
Yes, training is not marketing. A lot of people try to muddy the waters between training and marketing, and they push training that speaks about how great the company is but doesn't teach anything.
Mhm.
Nobody comes out with a new skill. They just are really glad they spent all their money there. So I have, not so much at Teleworld, but in previous engagements, I've had to really work hard to educate my superiors to understand that if they want marketing, marketing has a value, but go to the marketing team. If you want training,
Mhm.
come to me and I'm going to provide training. People are going to
Mhm.
come into the training missing a skill, they're going to leave with the skill we targeted.
That's fantastic. And I think you raise a really great point that training is so important, not only for continuous development, but making sure, that the standard of service that you're providing is the same throughout.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So if people wanted to learn more about Teleworld Solutions, the products that you offer, where would they go to learn more?
Teleworldsolutions.com. It's that simple. Yeah, we have a website. We have a great marketing and sales team. So if you think you're a good candidate for our services, uh, send us an email and one of our crack professionals will reach out and help you discover how Teleworld can help you.
That's fantastic. Well, Michael, as we wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either about Teleworld Solutions, about training and development, anything that you want to leave them with?
Teleworld Solutions is one of the best trained telecom staffs in the industry. I I stake my reputation on it.
That's fantastic. That's a great, great bit to leave our listeners with. Well, awesome. Michael, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to be on Business Ninjas today, breaking down all things Teleworld Solutions, adult learning and training, and you're certainly your expertise in writing and how you pull that into writing your manuals and training. So I appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Glad to do it. Thanks.
Yeah, great to have you.